On the topic of, again, universal design for learning, what are some misconceptions that you encounter?
Mm. Um, Accidental UDL is the biggest one. Oh, I'm
Okay.
already doing that kind of thing, right? I've already done
Ah.
that, or
Mm-hmm.
that. And while universal design for learning is not a separate and standalone framework, it actually does intersect with, rely on, and weave in with lots of other approaches to the design and practice of education. The one thing that it isn't is accidental. You have to be intentional in terms of what you
Mm.
are designing in the
Okay.
learning experiences. And so when I hear people say, oh, yeah, I just do that as a matter of course, and it kind of happens that way, then the next response that I'll usually share is, well, how do you kind of happen to measure it? How can you repeat it? How can you do it over and over again?
Mm.
And that's the real sticking point. Is it something where you have intentionally identified a barrier or something that isn't working the way you thought it was going to? And then you take intentional steps to lower those access barriers, provide more choices for folks in an optimized way, that kind of thing. Another misconception is just overwhelm. So there are
Sure.
three principles of universal design for learning, and they get chopped into 9 guidelines, which then get chopped further into 36 different considerations. And people see that level of detail and they think, that's 744 possible combinations. I don't even know how to approach this. And they think that universal design for learning is summative. I have to do all 36 things or I'm not doing
Ah.
it well.
Mhm.
It's actually iterative. So it's elective. Which of these 36 approaches, either individually or in combination, will help to lower the barrier for the thing that you've identified? So most people, when they're engaging with universal design for learning, they're using one or two or maybe three of those considerations at a time. And they can flex to meet the needs of where you see barriers and patterns. So that overwhelm is understandable. And
Yeah.
it's also how a lot of people get introduced to UDL. So it's no wonder that people just turn off. It's like,
Mm,
oh gosh,
sure.
there's put that on top of my regular workload. I don't have time to learn all that extra stuff, which is why, from the psychology research field, we're getting a lot of articles from psychologists saying that UDL is not science. It's not rigorous. And the response to that is, it is not. It's not actually science itself. What
Yeah.
universal design for learning is, is a theoretical framework that takes brain research, learning research, and research about how engagements happen in classrooms and online and in technology mediated spaces, and uses that framework to guide practices so that we can lower some barriers. Does it work 100% in every single instance? No, it's a framework. So there's a lot of sort of call for it to be more scientifically rigorous. It's not science. It's a set of guidelines. It's a practitioner's manual. So when you see people saying, "Oh yes, this is based on neuroscience and this is how people learn," they're using that as a metaphor, as a frame for these practice-based elements in universal design for learning. So listeners, I hate to break the bubble on this one. This is a practical, practice-based framework rather than something that is rigorously scientific. It's also based on lots of studies and science, but it is not itself a science. So those are a few misconceptions that are out there that I suppose mean I'm going to have a job for a while.
Job security is good.
Exactly.
Yep, yep. Um, one of my favorite just concepts or just words you mentioned is iterative.
Mm.
And it reminds me of one of my favorite takeaways of Reach Everyone, Teach Everyone was plus one thinking of, if I may summarize, rather than overhauling the entire course. We identify a particular moment where students are struggling and find another way to present the information. First, I invite you to, if there's anything you need to clean up from my description, please do. But also, what's one of your favorite plus one moments that you've recently had?
Mm. Well, when I came up with the plus one concept, it was meant to be a starting point, just to help practitioners to decide
Mm,
where to begin our efforts at lowering access barriers. Because, like you say, we can look at all of the things that we've designed in an online course, let's say,
yeah.
and think, I've got to make all of this accessible. I've got to change how all this is designed by like yesterday because there's laws that tell me I have to. And we can suffer from analysis paralysis and we won't even start. So that plus one idea was meant to be a way to get started. And then the eventual goal, though, isn't just plus one. I'm pleased to see how widely the idea has caught on across higher
Hmm.
education. And I'd also like to spread the word that UDL is not just plus one thinking. Plus one is that starting point rather than a replacement for the more detailed concepts and applications of the UDL framework. And so in my own work, I am what we might call a radical simplifier. I want to help people
Hmm.
understand ideas and act on them in ways that are achievable and meaningful to them. So an example of this is actually in the new book, and it's a metaphor about 20 steps. So listeners, imagine, if you will, that there are 20 steps to brilliant, perfect, splendid, shining, universal design for learning implementation. There totally aren't 20 steps, but just for the sake of argument, let's imagine that there are. Most institutions will pay a fair amount of money and invest a good amount of time to get a dozen or so willing instructors to get all the way up to step 18 or 19. They become super experts. They're champions at their institutions. They're supposed to teach others how to do it, that kind of thing. And what ends up happening is it's the same folks who come to all of your teaching center programming.
Hmm.
It's the
Yep.
same folks who, right? They have the time, the interest, the privilege, and the desire to be motivated to do it. That doesn't describe the majority of people who work at our colleges and
Mhm.
universities. So what I'd like to do, and this is my plus one, I want to, at scale, not ask everyone to become experts, but I want to get everyone in the entire institution to step two. I want to
Mm,
share some simple things that everybody consistently does. They're not hard, they're not a lot of work, but if everybody consistently does them, then that lowers access barriers and creates new expectation sets
yeah.
for our students. So, for example, um, if absolutely everybody on campus were to create a contact us set of information
Hmm.
that said clearly, if you want to talk to us live, here's the hours of the day and days of the week, and here's how you can do it by chat, by phone, whatever it is. And if you'd like to communicate with us asynchronously or offline, here's how you do it. Leave us a message in the chat, send us an email, whatever it is. And then have that information consistently on every single web page, every single touch point, every single brochure you hand out. That all by itself, anything that students or prospective students see or encounter about our institution has a how to get in touch with us, then that reduces a lot of confusion and creates that sort of concierge service mentality. Now, saying concierge in an academic podcast is a dirty word, right? Like we don't, our students are not our customers. We're
Hmm.
not there to please them. We're there to
Yep.
educate them. At
Yep.
the same time, the idea of a concierge, the idea of having one person to talk to who can at least route you in the right direction, that's what we want to do. And that helps to lower those access barriers because people feel better about picking up the phone, sending an email, getting onto the chat, and just saying, hey, I have this question.
Mhm.
And it helps us to lower those kinds of things as we go.
In part four of our discussion, Dr. Tobin talks about the United States Justice Department's upcoming digital accessibility deadline. We also talk about exciting examples of and futures for Universal Design for Learning in Higher Education.